You land on what I call the 80-20 rule, that 80% of client servicing is really kind of below the sea level. If you think of that iceberg analogy, that a lot of it is research, media monitoring. It's making sure you understand the trends. It's making sure you understand the right people to pitch to and the stories that they like to write about and so on. That is the critical element of making these campaigns successful. The 20% then is ultimately what clients are paying for. They want the heavy hitters in terms of advice, the high level kind of strategic play. But because of the broken economics now, it's harder to get that 80% right to contribute to the success of what people are paying for. 20% block. We launched Lou, which is our agentic layer that now sits across the platform to help agencies solve that 80% problem and deliver greater value now going forward.
This is Money Never Sleeps. Sharp riffs, big ideas, and real insights from smart people. I'm Pete Townsend, GP at Noria Ventures. Let's go.
Money never sleeps, pal.
As more and more of financial activity integrates with AI agents, it's easy to forget how many other parts of finance are becoming agentic right alongside it. My guest today is James McCann, CEO and founder of Everhaze, the intelligent operating layer for the future of PR and comms. James knows this industry inside out. It's his second go-around as a founder, as he founded and ran ClearStory, an international PR agency out of Dublin, until it was acquired last year. And then he started Everhaze. James, welcome to Money Never Sleeps.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Pete.
So listen, James, you really landed on something with Everhaze here. What is the earned secret or like the inside edge that you have because you've been doing this for years that other people building in this space may not have?
I look specifically at the economics of the industry, right? Certainly since COVID, how it's just effectively been increasingly broken, right? That a lot of those in in-house and agency roles are working an awful lot of overtime. In Ireland, 4 out of 5, I believe, are working more than 10 hours a week unpaid. And yeah, look, we look at that and we say, look, the model is broken. Now, you cannot possibly fulfill that. My experience as an agency owner, built it from €500, entirely bootstrapped. Cash flow is a big thing, getting the right people in, having an editorial model, having a service model, all of those kind of real headaches. You land on what I call the 80-20 rule, that 80% of client servicing is really kind of below the sea level. If you think of that iceberg analogy, that a lot of it is research, it's media monitoring, it's making sure you understand the trends, it's making sure you understand the right people to pitch to and the stories that they like to write about and so on. That is the critical element of making these campaigns successful. The 20% then is ultimately what clients are paying for. They want the heavy hitters in terms of advice. They want the right media training, the right strategies, the right messaging. And that's the high level kind of strategic play. But because of the broken economics now, it's harder to get that 80% right to contribute to the success of what people are paying for. 20% block. Everhaze launched last July as a way of doing mass media analysis on trends, right? Messaging and narrative analysis. And this month, early July, we launched Lou, which is our agentic layer that now sits across the platform to help agencies solve that 80% problem and deliver greater value going forward. And we genuinely think we have a potential here to help solve that broken economics problem, help the industry transition from that retainer plus hours to capability or outcome-based pricing. And yeah, I'd say that's our hidden secret.
Yeah, it's mad when you think about it, because I set yesterday a Google alert for something that I need to be tracking as a regulatory theme develops in the industry, right? Yeah. And that was a bit of a pain. I hadn't done it before, but you got through it. And then I thought about maybe I need to set 150 of those. Yeah. Forget about it, right? And then being able to take all of that data that you are tracking and all those news items, the trends, what's happening, the emerging stories, and turn that into something for your client to then talk about to a journalist, talk about at a conference, feels like a messy, messy piece of work.
To put it in a digestible format. So if you take artificial intelligence as a topic, or money laundering, or fintech regulation, whatever it might be, these are really, really broad topics, right? At a national level, let's say in the UK, there's at least a couple of hundred mentions across all the different channels on a daily basis. You expand that to Europe, a couple of thousand, and so on, to just break that down and understand the trend. But then it's making it digestible, deliverable, and actionable, I think, which is what Agentic AI now enables that to do. So for example, if you are tracking finance regulation across the European Union, right? Everyone has a central bank. Then you've got the European Central Bank, you've got kind of different amplifiers of different stories and so on. Being able to get that digested in like a 10-minute podcast format and delivered into your client's hand. That's what we're talking about here. Our clients can talk to Lou and say, okay, look, I have a new client here, an emerging fintech startup. They're very interested in money laundering regulation and the central banks across EU 27. Can you build me out sufficient alerts to capture that? Create a 10-minute podcast daily, send it to me so I can send it to the client as a digest. And it'll go up, obviously do those things. And like when you think of what that means then for that economics problem of the industry, that is massive, because not only are you taking the labor out of having to work with the tool, like setting up a Google alert or whatever, but you're also getting rid of the admin, the setting up, the calibration, all of that. And you are getting a byproduct straight to your WhatsApp, to your Telegram, to whatever channel you wish, to then provide that to the client. So now you have a capability that you can sell and you can market. And for very busy in-house teams, you become an economic advantage and a manpower advantage to them, and therefore to their executive team. And again, I think that is what the agentic era, when deployed correctly, is actually about. You really need to look at the human problems, like where is the pain there? Let's solve that, right? This is actually about ensuring we can get back to thinking and being creative. Your only limit is your imagination. Whatever you feel you might be able to create here as a solution to do whatever you need to do to provide value, it's there. That's where I think generally we're going.
We're going to start seeing job placements and looking at job descriptions and saying, prompting AI as a skill, right? The in-house people themselves using Copilot, perhaps to try to track all of this activity, the emerging trends going on themselves, versus, say, using Everhaze. The real difference to me seems to be that it's the PR agent themselves who knows this and knows the industry inside out, and that value that they add to the process, to the actual day-to-day execution that matters and makes a big difference here.
Yeah, like how many years expertise might say an account manager, account director have, or senior account executives? What scenarios have they worked with across their professional life? The crises they've managed, the CEOs they've helped in terms of media training. All of that is human experience. It's all human centric. It's that 20%. There's some things that I already feel are redundant, like prompt engineering and so on. AIs can write their own prompts, right? So now what really you need to do is, like, it's conversational. Like Lou is an entirely conversational tool. Like, we feel we've helped lower the barrier to entry for AI just by that alone. That being able to talk to it as if you were just musing. You were giving your expertise and your thoughts and experience to do a thing, and it goes and does it for you. I think we're looking at a totally different dynamic.
Yeah, we are. And just to double click on what you said there about it, it's about having that PR brain and having that experience and having that network and the contacts. That I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with a founder who was introduced to me by their PR agency, and someone specifically within that PR agency that I've known for a while. And during lunch, I said, that intro from that individual, the PR agent, I said, that was new for me, because usually intros to founders for me come from other founders or operators or VCs. And he said, well, that's just what she does. And it feels like having the human touch be able to be maximized here will allow a heck of a lot more of these type of intros and network opportunities to be done by the PR agent.
People buy from people, right? Like, PR is a very people-centric game. It's built on trust. It's built on the ability to not just sell your clients, but like there's a real critical skill there in terms of helping people succeed. And I always find kind of people within the industry, if you ask them for a favor, they'll do their level best to deliver it. But then, of course, there's a mountain of other things that they need to get through. Like, that's a really high value task. That's something that people pay for. That's that 20%. You can do more of that. Like, you can literally have one person's job and that's all they do. Maybe they kind of record the meeting, and whatever intros need to be done are done kind of straight away via their agent. Hey, just make these intros, done. Like the level in which you can now kind of make those connections, do those favors, build value amongst your network. PR and media relations has kind of, I feel like, drifted further and further apart the last kind of 20 years in the industry, right? Because it's harder for journalists to get away from the news desk, and the only channel into them is maybe their inbox or WhatsApp, and it's being bombarded, and they get ratty, you get frustrated. You know, you need to deliver for the client, and it becomes this like flywheel effect of doom for the industry. There is a really tangible way of now unwinding that if both sides of the equation have a way of just focusing on what they need to get done, you end up with a far better matchmaking. That you know, there's a reduction to the noise, and the ability then for people just to say, I have a new fintech client, they're in this space, here's their investors. I know such and such over here does the news desk for the FinTech Times, whatever it might be. He loves these kind of stories. I'm going to make an introduction.
Something about being able to get out from behind the laptop, see the whites of somebody's eyes in real life does make a difference, a huge difference in terms of building connections. And it feels like as well that the best stories tend to come out when both sides care. Yeah. That where you've got a journalist that actually wants to get a good story out and wants to get the truth out.
Yeah.
And you've got an agent, a PR professional who wants to do a great job getting that message across for their client. You know,
yeah, people buy some people, you know,
they do. The hard question, Jimmy, is that what I've been seeing right now out there in this space is that VCs are pushing back hard on anything that looks like SaaS, software as a service, wrapped around AI.
Yeah.
But you've closed your round anyway. How did you answer that question? That goes, what's stopping PR agents from just going straight to Claude or Copilot, like you said, instead of Everhaze?
100%. So infrastructure is the first. Making sure the infrastructure is reliable, right? That like you talked about Google Alerts there. It doesn't necessarily have radio. It doesn't necessarily have print, for example, podcasts or whatever it might be. So getting the infrastructure layer is critically important, because the last thing you want is a client picking up the phone to you and say, hey, listen, I heard I was on such and such a show, not being able to provide that, right? So like, and also just real-time data across journalists and so on, right? So infrastructure is the first key component. The next thing is tools, right? And the ability, like, there's two assumptions I'm making with the market. Tools are going to be a way of advancing agentic AI. So if I want a radio clip, I can send my agent send Lou a message and say, hey, client was on radio there, 12 o'clock, RTE1 or whatever it might be. Can you send me the full segment? And it'll just send it to you, and you can then kind of forward it on, right? Like, that saves a lot of time as it is. That by itself is a tool. We're going to have clients come to us with their wish list of tools. We're going to build them as quick as we can, put them into their hands as quick as we can, so they can sell the value. The other assumption that I'm making about the market is that generally, society and the economy can only absorb so much change. It's not something everyone thinks like next year, I'm not going to need accountants and all this kind of stuff, right? That's all the buzz, right? We'll start to see the start of this in 3 to 5 years' time in our workplaces generally. In about 10 years' time, it'll be fully normalized. People will have to roll along with it. But it's going to be 20, 30, 40 years before we get used to the pace of this. The pace of what is possible. I kind of give an example of, like, let's say AI gave us the plans for the Starship Enterprise, and an entire blueprint, how we go about it. You couldn't build it tomorrow. You know? Yeah. Like, it's going to take a couple of lifetimes maybe to put it all together. But like, you have the blueprint so you can work towards it.
Definitely. And it sounds like relationships and judgment are the real product here.
Big time. Big time.
Well, listen, James, what's the best way for people to get in touch and learn more about Everhaze?
Yeah, look, we'd love to hear from anyone. Thoughts, info@everhaze.com, or find us over on LinkedIn at Everhaze.
Wonderful. Listen, awesome to dig into this with you. Really looking forward to seeing how you guys scale in the market, and looking forward to our next chat.
Appreciate it, Pete. Thank you very much.
And to all you out there, thanks for watching and listening. And don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It helps others to find the show, and it means a heck of a lot to me. Till next time, see ya.